welcome to our cooking demo. Today we're going to be showing you how to make a very simple recipe of chicken, potatoes, and asparagus, and we're also going to be throwing in some tips for you on how to stay track around the holiday season and how not to gain weight. So I'm Michelle, and I am from A Perfect Fit St. Louis. I'm a registered dietitian, culinary expert, and personal trainer.
And I am Rachel Lewis. I am the owner of A Perfect Fit here in St. Louis, and we are a healthy cooking company. And I am also a personal trainer that works with Dr. Becky.
And I'm Dr. Becky Lynn. Thank you so much for tuning in. I run Evora Women's Health, and one thing that we think is so important is good nutrition, especially around the holidays. And we also work with women on losing weight, and we do that as healthily and nutritiously as we possibly can.
So I'm Clay Gravenhorst. I'm Dr. Lynn's medical assistant.
All right. What do you have for us, Michelle? I'm so excited.
Yes, same here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, this meal is going to feature lean chicken, potatoes, and asparagus. The first item that we're going to prep are the potatoes. So this recipe is pretty simple. Potatoes, although they sometimes get a bad rap, are actually a very nutritious starch source. So other starch sources include things like rice and pasta, but potatoes are also a vegetable, so you get a little bit more added nutrients if you choose potatoes as your starch source.
I never count them as a vegetable. I always count them as a starch, but that's good to know.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
maybe I'm eating more vegetables than I think I am.
You might just be. And while these are white potatoes, to get another punch of nutrition, you could sub sweet potatoes.
Oh, I love sweet potatoes.
Too. They're so good.
Especially in the fall. That would be a great way to make this more of a fall recipe.
Yes, it would. And so, as you'll see, we are going to season these potatoes with some sesame seeds and olive oil. Both of these are super healthy fats, and they both have omega-3s in them. And we're just doing them in little quarter-sized pieces like this. I'm going to try to do it as evenly as possible so that they cook all around and they cook evenly.
Yeah, so omega-3s are definitely like such a good fat source. You really need those omega-3s for brain health, heart health. And I know you can also get them in oily fish, right?
Yes, you can.
I love oily fish, like salmon and tuna.
Sardines.
Sardines. Now, I never really eat sardines.
Most
I
people
love
don't, but
sardines.
same.
Yes.
I love them.
Sardines are great for kids too as a source of omega-3s.
How do you cook them then?
They just come in a can.
Like, what do you put them in? Or do you just
I just
eat
eat them
them?
straight. My son just eats them plain.
Wow.
And they actually are the only fish with safe bones for kids. They
And
basically
dogs.
dissolve.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that when my kids were little.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to transfer these potatoes onto the sheet pan that they are going to put on. And obviously this is a sheet pan, and sheet pan meals are a pretty trendy topic on Pinterest. If you look up sheet pan meals, you'll find hundreds and hundreds of recipes. That's for a good reason, because sheet pan meals are super simple to cook.
I love the super simple. Like, if you can just throw it all together, it just makes my life so much easier.
So much easier.
Less dishes too.
That's what I was gonna say.
Clean up.
Everything just goes on one pan. And we aren't doing it today, but just another little tip on how to save time: if you put a piece of foil underneath, that saves some cleanup time.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So we're going to season the potatoes just with some, I think I said olive oil first, but avocado oil is just as good. And actually, when you're baking, it is a good idea to use avocado oil because it has a higher smoke point.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So what does that do if it has a higher smoke point?
So fats can become rancid if you cook them at a higher temperature than they're meant to go above.
Okay.
So actually avocado oil has one of the highest smoke points, meaning that you can cook it in super high temperatures. So
Okay.
if you're broiling anything, you definitely want to use avocado oil over some of the other ones like olive oil. And as you can see, I just sprinkled a little bit of that over the potatoes. Now I'm going to season them with some of those sesame seeds that we were just talking about. This is going to give them a really earthy flavor, almost a rustic. And then next, we're just going to use some salt and pepper.
Oh, you need salt? Oh, you have pink salt.
Yep.
Careful, 'cause it's not fast.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
You can sprinkle this with a spoon. That might be better. Nice. Get some, just a little bit of salt. I prefer actually to not use as much salt before the cooking process because it can dry out the foods. However, a little bit will help with the flavor. And you can always add just a teeny bit more afterwards.
And why do you use the Himalayan salt as opposed to just regular table salt?
Yeah, so the salt that you would normally see on a table is actually going to be pretty processed, and some of the nutrients are going to be extracted from it. So always better to use a Himalayan pink salt
Okay.
as often as possible. So we're going to go ahead and put these potatoes in the oven for about 20 minutes, and while we're doing that, we're going to marinate the chicken, and then we will add the chicken and asparagus to this after this is cooked for about 20 minutes. Alright, so now we are going to move on to marinating the chicken. This is just another reason why this meal is super helpful. It can be a really simple, easy meal is because part of it's already cooking while you're doing something else to complete the meal. So again, we're just going to take a little bit of our avocado oil, drizzle that through. You don't need much more than a tablespoon or two, depending on how much chicken you have.
And with this recipe too, if you aren't a fan of chicken thighs, you could also do chicken breast.
Definitely. Alright, so we got our olive oil on there. We're going to add some paprika. Paprika is one of my favorite spices. It pretty much goes with everything and just gives a little bit of that added flavor.
So since we're talking about holidays and not gaining weight, if you want to comment a little bit on like why eating protein with your meal is good for like satiety and so you don't overeat all those sweet treats and things?
Yes, definitely. So protein such as lean chicken, fish, ground turkey, all the white kinds of meats mainly. However, you can also buy some red meats that are leaner in nature, like grass-fed, above 90%. So all of those are considered pretty lean protein sources, and they are going to help promote satiety. They also taste pretty delicious. And this is super, super helpful to prevent weight gain because it makes you less likely to snack and nibble on some of those other sweet treats that won't keep you full for as long, that don't have the added nutrients such as this protein source.
I find that protein keeps, if I don't eat a little bit of protein with each meal, then I get hungry really quickly.
Definitely.
So I try and do that.
Yes. So now we're going to add some garlic.
We have spoons if you want.
Perfect.
Do you want a smaller spoon?
This is great. Okay.
Oh, well, that smells delicious.
Yes. So garlic is actually a really good prebiotic food. We hear a lot about probiotic foods. However, prebiotics are actually feed the probiotics, so they are equally as important.
So tell us like what that is, what a prebiotic is, because I'm not even actually sure what a
Yeah,
prebiotic is.
So, like I sort of just mentioned, prebiotics are basically the fuel source for probiotics. There are a lot less sources of prebiotics, but some other ones actually include asparagus, artichoke, garlic, and onions.
Okay.
So after we just swirl this around in your bowl, however, another way to marinate something is to put the chicken or whatever protein source you have in a Ziploc baggie, throw all the spices in, and that way you can make sure the marinade gets all over the chicken. So I'm just going to use this other spoon.
Stir it up a bit.
Yeah. Pretty simple. You can even just add a little bit more sesame seed for fun. Just gonna get a little more flavor in the end.
And sesame seeds added to this recipe, they're a great source of magnesium. So another additional nutrient added to this recipe.
Oh, that
actually
actually
nice.
I'm only just going to use a teeny bit. This is just going to give it a little bit more of an acidic flavor at the end.
So a couple tablespoons of Dijon.
A couple tablespoons, and then we are going to zest this lemon.
I just think zested anything brings so much flavor to a
So
recipe.
much
I
flavor.
love like orange zest and lemon zest. It just brings so much flavor than the juice.
Yes. Fun fact, if you don't have a lemon zester or one that is working, you can just squeeze a little bit of the lemon juice. Try not to get any seeds on there. This is going to help keep the moisture in the chicken as it cooks. So no one likes dry chicken.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And one other thing about like weight gain during the holidays is that you really want to avoid processed foods. So everything here is all wholesome, natural. These are just the kind of ingredients that you really want to stick to, things that haven't been processed.
Yes, definitely. A good tip that I give some of my clients when they're trying to lose weight is look for foods that have the least amount of ingredients possible. So most whole foods only have 1, maybe 2 ingredients at most.
Yeah.
So those are always great options.
When you start looking at how many ingredients certain packaged foods have, you're like, oh my gosh, like it's amazing how processed so many of the staples that we normally eat are.
Yes, so many additives and other ingredients that we can't even pronounce.
Right, that's not good. If you can't
Nope.
pronounce it,
No.
it's probably not wholesome.
Yeah, so I'm just going to show you a quick view. This is how the chicken looks. We're just going to put it back in the fridge and let it marinate while the potatoes cook, and then we'll get started on the asparagus.
Should I put it in the fridge? All
And
right.
so
I
with
got
grocery shopping, to add on to that, an easy tip to avoid processed foods, and I'm sure everyone that's watching this has probably heard it, but it's a great reminder to just stay on the outside of the grocery store. And if you look at what ingredients we're using, minus the spices, all of these ingredients you can find on the outside perimeter of a grocery store.
Definitely. Okay, so like I just mentioned, I said we were going to start with the asparagus, but we're actually going to move on to the sauce because we can just simply drizzle some olive oil when we take out the pan of potatoes and add in the chicken as well. The asparagus and chicken will cook for around the exact same time, so both of those can be added together. So this sauce is just another little fun way to sort of amp up the flavoring of this entire meal and sort of cohesively pull it all together. And rather than a store-bought sauce like Alfredo or any of your other options, this is all made from whole foods and also features some herbs which provide further benefit and nutrients. So first, I'm just going to take this rosemary and kind of peel off the little leaflets of it. We're going to need about 2 tablespoons of this rosemary.
I love the smell of rosemary.
Yes. I love when rosemary is cooked. Very good herb to use around the holidays.
It smells so good.
Thanksgiving-y.
And that can really make a difference in a recipe is just by using fresh herbs as opposed to ones that are already ground up.
Yes.
It really changes the flavor in a good way of whatever recipe you're working with.
Definitely. Just a little quick food service tip. So since I didn't use this knife for the chicken, it's okay to use it to cut up the rest of these herbs, even though I already used it for the potato. However, if you had used it on a chicken, you would definitely want to use a different knife or wash it off beforehand. So that should prevent cross-contamination.
We don't want anybody to get salmonella.
No.
Especially not around the holidays.
Yeah. Another tip I have is that if you do purchase fresh herbs, which I would encourage you to do because of their added health benefits, if you have kitchen scissors, that's a really easy way to get them really finely chopped so that they will be able to disperse and mix well into the recipe.
I've always heard like the more colorful a meal, the healthier it is too.
Yes.
And I know green is good,
Yep.
right?
Green is very good. Oftentimes green vegetables have a lot of fiber and a lot of the non-fatty vitamins. So rather than vitamin A, D, E, and K, vegetables tend to have all of the rest of them.
It looks like we have a comment of somebody saying that they wish that they were able to have all of their ingredients out to make it at the same time as us. But we
Oh.
are going to post this video later, so you can always rewatch it, and we'll also send out the recipe if you're a patient of Dr. Lynn's.
And even if you're not a patient, what you can do is go to my website and go to contact us. Just send me your email and I'll send you the recipe. So my website is Evora by DrBeckyLynn.com, and I'll say I'll say it again at the end. Sorry, I don't want to
Oh, no, go ahead.
mess up the recipe, but it's Evora by DrBeckyLynn.com, and it's DR, not DOCTOR. And if you just reach out, we'll get to the recipe.
Yeah, awesome. So next I am going to chop up a few of these basil leaves. Recipe calls for about 1/4 of a cup. So I'm just going to grab a few to start with, chop those, and see where we fare.
I wish you all could smell this, because between the basil and the rosemary, oh,
And we have masks
That's okay.
on, and we
I
can
know.
still smell it.
Again, with these herbs, you do want to try to get them as finely chopped as possible so that they disperse well, especially in something like a sauce. While I finish chopping these, I can touch on a few of the rest of the ingredients in the sauce. So we have a shallot, otherwise known as a purple onion sometimes. And like I mentioned earlier, onions are a great prebiotic food. They also tend to add a substantial amount of flavor to many meals.
so why would you choose a shallot over a different onion? I've actually always wondered that, like some recipes, like where I've gone to make a recipe and I didn't have a shallot, but I had a regular onion,
Yeah.
and I didn't know if it would go with the recipe.
Yeah, so I often use shallots and onions interchangeably.
Okay.
I think the major difference is just that one has a little bit stronger flavor, so the shallots or the purple onions tend to have a stronger flavor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Other times recipes just call for a shallot because it's smaller in nature. Looks like we're going to use most of these basil leaves. I'm just finely chopping them. If you have a bigger knife, a tip I always say is you can chop them like this, and this will make them even more fine. Tends to work better with bigger knife though.
I can get you a
I guess we
bigger
could have
knife.
got you food.
That's okay.
If you need one, you let me know.
This will work for now. Will also be, since we're putting it into a food processor, it will be even more mixed up in the end. So I'm going to take both of these herbs and just put them into the same bowl because we're all going to mix them together anyways.
While you're doing that, another little tip about holiday eating and trying to not eat too much is you don't want to go into cooking or making a meal when you're hungry.
Very, very good
So
tip.
you might want to eat like a healthy snack or something before, so that way you're not starved while you're making this, and you're less likely to sort of, take little bites as you go along.
Definitely, definitely. Same tip before you go grocery shopping as well.
Yes.
There's actually research that shows that you tend to make poor grocery shopping decisions when you are hungry.
I can agree with that one. A checkout line every time.
I know.
Definitely. So now to make this sauce or finish mixing it, we're just going to put everything into a food processor. If you don't have a food processor, a high-speed blender would work just as fine. So I just added in the Greek yogurt to it. This is a great substitute for traditional sour cream. It has a lot of the same taste, however, it's a lot more macro-friendly, has a lot more nutrition as well.
And it doesn't have a lot of protein also?
Yes, it does. Plain Greek yogurt is very high in protein.
Keeps you full.
Yes, it does.
We always use Greek yogurt instead of sour cream whenever we make Mexican food. So if we make quesadillas or something, we'll use just a dollop of Greek yogurt. It's so good. I don't know why you would ever choose sour cream because that Greek yogurt has so much flavor.
And that is a good tip with yogurt. I have a lot of clients, when I look at their food log, I notice they buy yogurts. And right here we're using a plain Greek yogurt, which is what you want to start with. That should be your base, and you can always add maybe a little honey, some almonds, add to the plain Greek yogurt as opposed to buying a yogurt that has a ton of sugar in it. Majority of yogurts out there have around 10 grams of sugar, which is actually a lot of sugar for a little thing of yogurt. So always read your labels.
I think honey in Greek yogurt tastes better than a typical yogurt you would buy. Do you know?
I agree.
Got it.
Food processors are always
Sorry, that's really noisy. Sorry, I always have to hold it down.
So what I tend to do with food processors is let it blend for 20 seconds or so, check the consistency. If you like a more textured consistency, something that you might have taste a little bit of the shallot specifically in, then 20 to 30 seconds is perfect. If you want it really, really smooth, then you'll just blend it for a little bit longer. So we'll give this one about 10 more seconds, and then I think it will be good. It's not there yet.
We just got a new microphone to do these Facebook Lives. That's going to be really loud on that microphone.
Yeah. All right, so here is the finished.
Delicious.
This sauce is technically, the main ingredient is actually feta cheese. So I don't think we touched on that one yet, but feta cheese is a pretty healthy cheese, I would say. It's definitely one that I recommend for my clients over others because it does have a little bit more of that nutrition, and it also just has a really great flavor. A very tangy flavor that pairs really well with lemon. So now that the sauce is done, we are basically just waiting for the potatoes to finish cooking, and then we will be adding the asparagus with the chicken to the rest of the sheet meal. So now might be a good time to talk a little bit more about some tips to help you stay on track throughout the holidays and to prevent any unwanted weight gain. So some of the best tips that I have for clients are to focus on a few things. Number one, the lean protein sources like we were talking about. So things like that white chicken, turkey, fish, and lean red meat that is maybe 90 to even 93% or higher. The next thing is fiber. So a lot of times people forget to add in a fiber source. Some vegetables and fruits are going to be higher in fiber than others. So as often as possible, try to get some of those that have more fiber in them. Those ones are going to be things like your greens. They are going to be things like the potatoes, bell peppers, and tons of other ones. And then number 3 is very similar, and that is just to include a fruit or vegetable at every single meal or snack. So the recommendation is actually to get 5 to 9 servings of fruit and vegetables per day. And that might seem crazy because I think a lot of people might only get 1 to 3 per day, maybe at dinner time. Maybe you have a fruit for breakfast or a snack, but really we're going to be aiming for 5 to 9 servings of fruit and vegetables per day.
So one thing I'll say about that, if you're going somewhere and you have to bring a dish and you're really worried that you're going to overeat, then bring a vegetable tray.
Yes.
Or bring a fruit salad, because then even if you, like, let's say you bring that, you have a healthy choice, one. And also, if you overdo it on something, overdo it on fruits. I don't even know if you can overdo it on the fruits and vegetables.
Very hard.
It'd be really hard. So just another good little tip of, what to bring. Your family will be just fine if you don't make that, pumpkin pie or lemon tart or something like that. They'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah. And sort of piggybacking off of that, if you do decide that you want to sort of indulge in some pumpkin pie or some of the desserts that are offered around the holidays, try to set intentions before you go and indulge in that. So it's always helpful if you can sort of slow yourself down and really think about, how do I want to feel after eating this? Or how am I doing something in 2 hours that I need to feel energized for? Is there a family game that we're all going to play in? I want to be the winner. So just take some time to slow down, make some intentions, and then remind yourself that portion control is totally okay. There's going to be pumpkin pie, there's going to be cookies every day for the rest of your life if you really wanted. So you don't have to think that each eating experience is like the Last Supper.
Right. And I also think, when we talk about setting intentions, you can say in your mind, I'm going to have a very small piece. I'm just going to have a little that's going to fit into my plane for the day. And that way it's okay if you have a little and you won't be compelled to go off the deep end and eat everything in sight.
Yes.
So I totally agree with setting intentions, planning ahead can really help you not gain weight during the holidays.
100%. That's another actually topic I like to touch on. Another way to prevent weight gain. It's sort of similar to what we said earlier, where you don't want to go to a grocery store hungry, you don't want to food prep when you're super hungry, because that just sort of lowers your inhibitions. The same goes for if you know that you're going to be eating a huge meal, so aka Thanksgiving, a lot of times Christmas as well. You actually don't want to not eat leading up to the meal. You still want to eat regular, healthy meals as nutritious as possible with those lean proteins and that fiber, because that's going to help your body think that it's no different day. It's going to prevent some of that Last Supper mentality that we've been talking about.
That is true, because I think on Thanksgiving we always see people say, oh, I'm not going to eat until Thanksgiving meal, I'm going to save up. And that actually backfires in the long run.
Yes, and your digestion does not like it either. So digestive systems actually prefer to have a few smaller meals with a lot of good nutrition rather than a giant meal at one time. That's a lot of work for the digestive system. So as often as you can work with your body, great.
Another thing to keep in mind is that if you're cooking, you can make sure all your guests go home with a doggy bag so that you're not left with all that, pumpkin pie. I don't know why I keep picking pumpkin pie. But maybe that's what I really want. But, send some of those things home with your guests. They'll actually really appreciate it. And then you won't be left being tempted every time you open the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
And there are always less fortunate people than us, so if you can find somewhere to donate things, if they haven't been opened, or if certain churches or things like that are taking donations, that's another great option to sort of get rid of some of that food that you might not want to hold on to.
How much time do we have on that? Or the potatoes?
Yeah, we're probably like 2 or 3 more minutes.
2 or 3 more minutes.
2 or 3 more minutes. So Rachel, I'm interested. What tips do you have in terms of working out or exercise that help people stay
Around
on
the
track?
holidays? I think the biggest thing is just stay on track and have a plan ahead of time. So with my clients, when I know they're traveling, we make a plan and I ask, okay, well, what are you staying in a hotel? Do they have a gym? And it's not a big deal if you don't have a gym. Can you go walk outside? So just planning ahead, especially with travel, there's always something you can do. You can always be active no matter where you're at. And so just having that plan ahead of time. Okay, I'm going to work out here still, even though I'm visiting my parents. So I think that's the biggest thing with exercise, at least.
I also also think it's important to make it a priority because it's so easy, especially when you get out of your normal routine where you exercise, the time you exercise. Maybe now you're at your family's house, you're sleeping in, but I think you still need to really make it a priority and part of your schedule so you don't get off track.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many apps, there's so many online group classes right now. Many of them are free as well. So scheduling those into your day, like literally writing them in your planner or setting a reminder in your phone can help you stay more accountable and on track with all of your goals.
Or what I like and what I do is to have a buddy that you work out with. So if you're home for the holidays, maybe grab your mom or your sister or your brother and say, let's take a walk. And just that way you hold each other accountable and you both get a good workout.
And I think that's really important too, is to just, you have the opportunity to be an influence for your family on eating healthier and exercising, especially around the holidays. And so if you take that initiative to be consistent with your workouts and be consistent with your eating, they see that and they're more inclined to maybe want to join in with you.
Yeah, and that's really important for your kids too.
Yes.
You know, to set a good example for your kids so that way as they grow up and they're confronted with the couch versus exercise, they'll make the right decision.
So I think we can check on the potatoes. See how they are going.
Oh, we need a hot pad to
Yes.
take it out. Sorry, let me grab that. Since it's hot, I usually set things over there, so then we'll just move the camera a little bit. And do you need two of them? You got it? All right.
Muscles.
We can look at our beautiful potatoes.
I'm going to turn it off for a second. There's our potatoes.
Can you see them? Yeah, so definitely don't touch the pan without anything on your hands because you will burn yourself. But you want to give them a little bit of a shape just to, oh, we might need a.
Do you want the other one? Oh, do you need a spatula?
Yes.
That'll work.
That'll work. This is another reason why it can be helpful to put a sheet pan down so it does not stick. Although if you just give them a little spatula.
You're gonna get it?
Yeah. This will do.
They look and smell delicious.
Yeah. And so since these have already been in the oven, they actually look like they're cooking a lot quicker than the recipe actually called for. What I'm going to do is put them to the edge of the pan so we can allow the things that haven't been cooked to cook a little bit better. And then these won't get as much.
So
more
do
roasted.
things don't cook as much around the edges?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's good to know.
So we're gonna add our asparagus to the meal and literally you can just put it on your pan wherever there's room. Once we get the chicken, we'll probably have to spread it out even more so.
Here's the chicken.
Here's the chicken.
Oh, tongs, yep. Actually, the tongs are here. There you go.
Thank you. And I will say when you're at home, obviously, if you are just cooking for you and your family and you feel comfortable, you don't necessarily need all of these other little tools that we're using. It's okay to just sort of grab the chicken or use something else that you have already used. That will save some dishes and cleanup time. So I'm literally just putting the chicken onto the pan wherever there's room. Trying to keep it in the center because the center of the pan is where things will cook the best. And the chicken is the most important, that we make sure it's cooked all the way. I'm actually going to move back over here to the little island so that we can season the asparagus and then everything will go back into the oven.
Do you need a hot pad to put it on?
Is that right there?
That'll work. ahead and turn it back.
Yeah. So very similar to the potatoes, we're just going to drizzle on a little bit of this avocado oil. Don't need too much.
Do you always use avocado oil, or when would you choose olive oil?
So if I'm putting something into the oven over 400 degrees, then I try to use avocado oil as
Okay.
much as possible. Olive oil tends to be better when you're sauteing something on a pan because it doesn't get as hot.
Okay. Good to know.
So then the asparagus we're going to season similar to the potatoes. I'm just going to grab some salt and pepper. It only needs a little bit, because like I said, you can always add more afterwards. It's better to add a little bit less than add too much. So that was the salt. This is just some crushed black pepper. Just like that. You can even add just a little bit more paprika. Because like I said, it just tends to give it a teeny bit more flavor.
You know, I think people a lot of times think that vegetables are bland, but really when they're cooked or roasted and with all the spices, they're delicious.
Yes, so delicious. All right, and that is pretty much it. So now you will just put this pan back into the oven for another 20 minutes or so. However, looking at this one, since these chicken breasts are a little bit slimmer and smaller, let's set it for like 12 to 15
Yeah.
minutes, and then we can check on it.
And it's a convection oven too.
Oh, perfect. Maybe that's, so definitely like 12-ish minutes.
Now we can keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You need to turn it back on.
Oh yeah. It was not on. What was it on? 425?
Yes.
There we go. Okay. Perfect. So do we want to add anything else to helping people not gain weight?
Yeah.
Any other good recipes that you know of that are super filling, or?
Yes, there are many, many wonderful recipes on the A Perfect Fit site. So you can actually scroll through all of the menus, and there's options for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All of those are super healthy, nutritious, and wonderfully delicious options as well. Other tips I have for finding recipes, obviously Pinterest is going to have a multitude, too many recipes actually, if you ask me. So the tips I give my clients to sort of navigate that is to literally set a timer for like 5 to 10 minutes so that you know you won't get lost down the rabbit hole of Pinterest, which is very easy to do. So just set your timer for 5-10 minutes, type in something that you're looking for. So some ideas that I give my clients are simple, healthy meals, easy, healthy meals, under 30-minute meals. Anything like that is going to provide you with some options that are a little bit less low maintenance.
And then do you want to tell us a little bit about A Perfect Fit? I think it's such a great thing.
Yes, and Rachel, feel free to chime in whenever you need, but basically A Perfect Fit is a chef company. So what we do is we go and cook for people. It's super, super flexible, so there's a lot that you can do with this. Some clients have us go grocery shopping for them, and others we just go to their house and cook about 5 to 6 meals for them. And this looks different for every client because, like I just said, it's very flexible, but it's super helpful for people who are looking to stay on track. It's super helpful for anyone who is super busy and just doesn't have enough time to prepare good, nutritious, healthy meals. And then some people just really like having someone cook and prep meals that they know are nutritious for them and helps them stick to portion sizing and all of that good stuff.
So do you do all of those meals like on the same day? So you can cook for the whole week for the family?
Yes. Yep.
That's
so
great.
Very convenient. A lot of families that have younger kids or kids like around the middle school area find it super helpful. because that tends to be when those kids start to get a little bit more picky, and so this is a very easy way for parents to ensure that they're, having some healthy, nutritious meals in their rotation.
I wish. Go ahead. Let's hear from Rachel.
So a perfect fit, we like to say that we're a boutique nutrition company because we do everything. Our chefs are registered dietitians as well. So they're really good at listening to your needs and seeing what's the best nutrition plan for you, what's the best idea for you, whether that's meal preparation, so making all your meals from start to finish, whether that's grocery shopping and meal prep, or whether that's I have an athlete in the family that needs high protein meals and high carbohydrate meals. So everything is really unique and tailored as opposed to the traditional meal preparation companies that are out there. So that's what we like to let people know.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say one of my favorite aspects of working in this capacity is that when my clients are home while I'm cooking, they're able to ask me all sorts of different questions, whether that's about the foods that I'm preparing, sort of similar to this. And a lot of times I find that they just want to ask things about things they've heard through media or on the news or whatever, like surrounding food, obviously. Nutrition and things like that, but I think it's really cool to have those conversations and just provide a little bit more value to them for the rest of their meals and snacks.
So that must be so nice to have a dietitian in your home cooking your meal. And you could be like, well, just like I've been doing here, right? Well, why do you choose avocado? You can learn so much.
Yes,
That's really nice. And the other thing you mentioned, like what you hear in the media or on the news, it's so easy to fall down that rabbit hole of the internet or even weight loss. You hear all these crazy things that you should do to lose weight rapidly, and a lot of them are, not really based in science.
Yes.
So it must be nice to have a registered dietitian with all the education and training to teach you how to make your meals. And if you don't want to learn, then you still get to eat the nutritious meals.
Exactly.
So the added benefit.
That is definitely one of the best parts of it. So.
I think it's really cool with a perfect fit, seeing it grow and just seeing how families respond to having a chef in their homes. So I love when we get kids that run up in the kitchen when their chef comes and they wonder what's the meal this week, or when they get to offer their opinion on what meals they want cooked for them. It just really involves them, and like we said, your kids need to see us eating healthy and us cooking in the kitchen because it influences their behavior down the road. And so having someone cooking in your home is that's another great benefit that I love to see.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say, just kind of tying it in with Evora is, we see a lot of women at Evora who are trying to lose weight, but are working professional women who don't have time to go to the grocery store and stay only on the outside, which is a great idea, by the way, outside perimeter. Or they just don't have time. I mean, I think that a lot of our weight loss patients will say, oh my gosh, it's so much work.
Yep.
Because not only do you have to plan ahead, you have to chop vegetables and you have to wash fruit. And it's so much easier to grab a granola bar. But if you have somebody making those meals for you and preparing the healthy snacks and treats, it just makes it so much easier. So I think a perfect fit works really well with our weight loss program at Evora.
Yeah. And I will just add that I find a lot of my clients, so like we've been saying, the clients can pick about 5 to 6 meals that we will make for the week, and that can include breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But I find many of them want more dinner options. And this is probably because of something I like to call decision fatigue. So by the end of the day, everyone has made so many decisions, their brain has been working all day, and it can be really difficult to sort of resist some of those cravings that we might have, or resist the convenience of putting in a frozen pizza or Hot Pocket or whatever exists these days. So having those healthy dinner options just already ready, you don't have to think about anything, you get to come home, eat a healthy, nutritious meal, and then you have the rest of the night to hopefully relax or do something you enjoy.
What I think is important too is when you get home from work, the last thing you feel like doing is cooking, or you're starving. Excuse me, that's where I go wrong, is I get home from work and I'm so hungry that I'm just eating whatever, and then that like desire to cook a healthy meal for my family goes way down. So if you have somebody cooking for you, or if you have somebody who could just take it out of the freezer for you, then it can be ready when you get home, and you're much more likely to make good choices rather than grab the processed food out of the pantry.
Yeah, and sort of piggybacking off of that again, another tip I like to offer some of my clients, because many of them do talk about that almost ravenous hunger by the time that they're on their drive home from work or whatever. If you can bring or plan ahead and pack a healthy snack that has a little bit of fat in it, such as some nuts, like 2 tablespoons or even 1/4 cup of nuts. Another great option are like energy balls made with mostly whole ingredients and lower sugar recipes, but anything that has a little bit of fat, and if it also has protein, even better. But that can hopefully help you, stay full until dinner time, and then you don't feel as ravenous.
Right.
It's actually time to eat.
And I think also people think, when it comes to carbs versus protein and fat, they think, I'm going to eat something healthy, I'm going to eat a banana. Well, banana is healthy, but like it'll raise your blood sugar up high, and then you'll like bottom out, you'll feel awful, you'll feel, starving, whereas, maybe the nuts have maybe a little bit more calories, but they're a much better choice because they're not going to make you feel that ravenous hunger when you get home.
Right.
So sometimes I think that, we think, something's good and healthy, but it may not be the best choice to make you feel full.
Yeah. And I really like that, what you just said. Something I would add to that is if you really love fruits and that is one of your go-to snacks, obviously fruit is very helpful, but because it can raise your blood sugar so quickly, try pairing it with a protein or a fat source, such as some nuts or even a little block of cheese. Anything that you can pair like a carb with a fat or a protein, that's going to help your blood sugar stay balanced.
What do you think about peanut butter?
In what terms?
Well, so I was just thinking, like apples and peanut butter, or even like celery and peanut butter, carrots and peanut butter. But I always worry that peanut butter has a lot of sugar in it. So it'd probably be better to pair it with nuts. But what do you do if you like peanut butter? I guess my question is, how bad is peanut butter?
So it definitely all depends on the extra ingredients in the peanut butter. So many stores these days have peanut butter options that literally only have 1 to 2 ingredients. And so those are going to be a more natural form. They're not going to have the added like palm oils or other sort of like rancid vegetable oils, and they usually don't have added sugar. So as often as possible, if you are a strict peanut butter lover, look for an option that literally only has peanuts and maybe sea salt.
It sounds delicious, just like that.
Yeah.
A good tip with that too, I always tell my clients, is get out the tablespoon when you open the jar and make sure you measure and then close it.
Yes, it is too
because
easy.
I have a habit, my favorite dessert is just dropping chocolate chips in the peanut butter and just spooning it out.
Yep.
So I have to watch it, 1 spoonful, 2 spoonfuls, and then close it on up.
Yeah. So I have to say, speaking of weaknesses, my husband will buy vanilla ice cream, and I know when he's gotten into the ice cream because we open it up and there's peanut butter in the ice cream.
Oh my
gosh. Because basically he takes a spoonful of peanut butter and then a spoonful of vanilla ice cream and eats it.
Yeah. That is fun.
I think it's okay if you do like 1 bite, 2 bites, or close up the peanut butter after you've measured it out.
Yes. It's very, very helpful if you can figure out if you are a moderator versus an abstainer. And what that really means is some people are easily able to moderate and just have that 1 to 2 bites of the delicious peanut butter and ice cream, whereas others, even if they have all the great intentions to do that, it's just really not possible for them. So you can sort of figure out if you're better at moderating or better at just like, you know what, I find whenever I do that habit, I just can't stop it. So that might be a good sign that it's not the best option for you.
So that reminds me of an episode of Sex and the City. I don't know if you all saw this. I mean, it was on a while ago, but where Cynthia Nixon's character eats a piece of cake. She has the whole cake, and she's like, "Nope, I'm not a moderator."
Yep.
So she dumps it in the trash, And shortly thereafter, she pulls it out and finishes it up. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Definitely not a moderator.
She's an abstainer, yes, definitely.
And something else that jogged my mind, fun fact is that peanuts are actually not even a tree nut. Peanuts are actually legumes. So if you are looking for more of those healthy fats like the omega-3s, you'll definitely want to stick to something like almond butter or cashew butter. And that's going to have a little bit more of those healthy fats.
And like we use sesame seeds today, tahini is sesame seed butter, and it's a great option.
Yes, that is one of my favorite all-time fats, I would say.
I never make tahini, but I love it.
Yeah.
I should make it.
Thankfully, many grocery stores these days have tahini that only has one ingredient, sesame seeds as well. And I use tahini as a salad dressing. So
That's a good idea.
So being a registered dietitian, I'm just so curious, what recipes do you make at home? What do you like to eat?
yeah, so this is super funny, and I really don't use recipes. So I tend to sort of think of my meals and plan them in terms of a protein source, a fiber, and a carb source. So
Okay.
carbs are not bad. Certain ones are definitely better because hopefully they have fiber. So a good carbohydrate is going to have fiber, or it's going to be in whole intact. So that's where we get the word whole grain from. That literally just means the grain is fully intact. It has all the parts of it remaining. So that's sort of how I tend to make my meals. I also like very, very simple meals. I'm sort of like a digestion nerd, you could say. And
That's important for a lot of women.
yeah, definitely. So I like to feel my best as often as possible. I like to feel energized and sort of, I call it light and airy. So I find that just making very simple meals with whole ingredients, whole foods as often as possible works super well for me. So I do enjoy cooking for others, but for myself, I do prefer a little bit more simplicity.
So you said something that I think is really important, is that, I think that women believe that all carbs are bad. And I get asked this all the time. Oh, I gotta cut out the carbs, I gotta get rid of the carbs. And not all carbs are bad. Certain carbs are really bad, and certain carbs are good. And you need some carbohydrates in your diet. And I feel like carbohydrates have this bad reputation that you should never eat a carb.
Right.
And especially if you're going to exercise and work out, you definitely need your carbs. They're a good energy source.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yes.
I'm definitely not a dietitian,
Yeah.
but I feel like we need to get rid of the idea that all carbs are bad.
Right. I definitely agree. Yep. That's actually one of my favorite topics to talk about with many of my nutrition clients.
And what do you tell them?
So basically what you just said, that carbs are not inherently bad, but the quality of some carbohydrates is better than others.
So what would you recommend? Which carbohydrates are good?
Yes. So surprisingly, or maybe hopefully not surprisingly, all fruits and vegetables are actually basically straight carbohydrates. So if someone says they're eating a no carb or low carb diet and they're only eating proteins and vegetables and carbs, they've actually misspoken, because vegetables and fruits are carbs. So I would say those are definitely the top choice of carbohydrate source. And then I always recommend some of the more starchy vegetables. So some people, label potatoes as a starch rather than a vegetable. Some people even do the same with like winter squashes, like butternut squash, acorn squash, but those are super good options as well. Any carbohydrate source that has color to it, so like a sweet potato or a squash is going to be a great choice. But then there's also nothing wrong with other carb choices, such as like brown rice, quinoa. Quinoa is a carb choice that's also really high in protein, so that's one that I often recommend. And then things like whole wheat pasta every once in a while I think are perfectly okay. Like I said, it's sort of just about moderation and really setting intentions and thinking about what feels best in your body.
And then the other thing I sort of want to address, and I'm curious what you think about this, is like if you eat wholesome, whole grains, whole foods, you probably don't need a whole bunch of supplements.
Yes.
in general, if you're a healthy person. Now, if you have certain illnesses that require you to take supplements, that's a different story. But I find that people always ask me, well, what supplements do I need to be on? Or is there a supplement that's going to make me lose weight?
Yeah.
And really, if you eat a a variety, I think variety is really important.
Eat the rainbow.
Eat the rainbow. I love that. Yeah, eat the rainbow. And you don't need to buy a whole bunch of supplements to give you what you're getting in a good diet.
Yes, definitely. And that's a great point, actually, because so many people are so obsessed with supplements when really, you know, Whole Foods, yes, they might be a little bit more expensive than some of the packaged options, but you're not going to be getting the same nutrition from them. And if you want to feel optimal, you'll likely then have to take a lot of supplements to sort of counteract the lack of nutrition in the processed and packaged foods. So again, as often as you can eat as many whole foods as possible, that's really going to set you up for the best success.
So the only thing that supplements, not the only thing, but it seems to me that a lot of these, you know, supplements, it's just making your wallet thinner
Yes.
and not you. And so if you're going to take the money that you spend on the supplements, I would take that money and spend it on nutritious food instead.
100%. Definitely a good idea. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and check on the meals, where we're at.
Yes, it's delicious. Do you want a second glove there?
I think I can get it.
You sure? There's another thing in there. Yeah, right there. You got it? Oh, and it smells delicious.
Hopefully you guys can see this. We have our chicken, potatoes, and
Bring this out.
sizzling hot.
Mmm.
So
It even sounds good.
yeah, if I were cooking this like for a client, or if you were cooking this meal for someone else, I would definitely stick a meat thermometer into the chicken. You want to try to stick it in the thickest part of the chicken and have it reach 165 degrees, and that will just ensure that it is fully cooked properly. So here we go.
Show us what
Oh,
you do
yeah.
with the dressing.
Do you need a spoon or something?
Yes, please.
All right. Is this good size for you?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So now to sort of top off the meal, I really just like to take a little bit. You probably don't need much more than like a tablespoon, but you would just drizzle it a little bit on the chicken, some on your asparagus, some on some potatoes. A lot of people like to dip their foods in something, so if you don't want to put it on, you could just have this a little tablespoon on the side of your plate and dip whatever you wanted to into the sauce. So it's kind of up to you and just your preferences.
Perfect. So I don't know what the rules are with masks and things. It's not like a normal cooking thing where you can like all take a bite, but
Right.
it smells delicious.
Yeah.
So why don't we, I just want to round it up.
Yeah.
Just with telling you a little bit about Evora Women's Health, and then
Yeah.
if there's anything you guys want to add about a perfect fit, because I think this is such a great collaboration between us two. Evora Women's Health is a concierge medical practice. So that means that we have time for you. We really see a lot of women in their midlife years, 40s, 50s, and beyond, but we also see 20s and 30 or women in their 20s and 30s. We really believe that the best care is care where we have time to listen to you and spend time with you, and we're not in a rush. At Evora, we also specialize in menopause and the perimenopause, so hormonal problems, weight gain, joint aches, mood swings, sleep disturbances, all those not so fun things that women have to look forward to when they get to their late 40s, early 50s. And so we see a lot of women for problems like that, as well as sexual problems like low libido or painful sex. And then we have the most fantastic 3-month Kickstart weight loss program. And our weight loss program is really founded in science. We're not going to sell you supplements or give you a magic pill, because there isn't a magic pill or we'd all be skinny. But we really base our weight loss program on nutrition, exercise, including personal training and strength building, which is so important to increase your metabolism. We talk about behavioral changes, and then some people do need medicines. We can prescribe weight loss medicines too, but those work in combination with nutrition and exercise. So if you're interested in coming to see us at Evora, you can, probably the easiest thing to do is search Evora Dr. Becky Lynn, that's me, so it's Lynn, and Evora will come up, or our website, and we'll put this all on the bottom of your screen also, is Evora by DrBeckyLynn.com, and it's DR. You don't have to spell out doctor, and Evora is E-V as in Victor, O-R-A. Or you can call us at 314-934-0551. And we offer free 15-minute consults just to see if we're the right fit for you. We're happy to answer your questions. And we look forward to hearing from you because your health matters to us. Lovely. Anything you guys want to say?
And I just want to thank you for watching our cooking demo with Michelle and me. And if you are interested in a perfect fit, we are a boutique nutrition concierge service. So we can do anything for you. Any nutrition need that you have, from grocery shopping, meal planning, cooking, we are your service. And for all of Dr. Becky's clients out there, we want to offer you your first cooking session free. So if you want to try out a perfect fit, just go ahead and let us know that you are working with Dr. Becky, and we will set you up with your first free cooking session.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much for
thank
joining.
you.
It was so much fun.
And we'll be sure to post this, so it, not just the live, but we'll post it on our Facebook page as well. So thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.